makes Trump talk? Asks Caleb Howe at Red State this morning. Talk. What else? He just can't resist the sound of his own voice. But it's more than that. Pundits, to be more broad, speaking of broads, Ann Coulter would let Trump perform abortions in the White House if it meant he would stick to his immigration rhetoric. Laura Ingraham and her fans believe that Trump must be elected for his immigration views because all other issues are decided by it. Sean Hannity says Trump will save us from the flood of illegals. And it is a flood, but that's kind of beside the point. Rush Limbaugh never took Trump seriously on his immigration rhetoric, he says now. Big fat weasel. But he's still better than Hillary. No, he's not. Gang of Eight. Amnesty. Those were the key words of the primary. The topic. And it happens to be the favorite and most precious topic for talk radio and TrumpBart.com and Ann Coulter books and Fox News shows, and, well, you get the picture. Now Trump has changed his position on immigration. Oh, look, it's looking at the recent video. It's at the top of the playlist. I believe it was entitled Trumpenstein. Hour and 34 minutes worth every second. Go watch it. Download it. Save it for all time. Because maybe, just maybe, you won't get fooled again, Trumplicans. But he has. Trump has indeed changed his position on immigration. And tomorrow, he may change it back. Oh, man. Because as wrong as Limbaugh was for never bringing it up until now, he was right to not take Trump seriously on the topic, assuming that he's not lying about that now. I mean, he was either lying for the past 14 months or he's lying now. It's one of the two. But Rush Limbaugh is lying. He either did or he's lying now. Either way, Rush Limbaugh is a liar, and for the sole purpose of holding on to his audience, which drank the Kool-Aid, and it was a business decision. It's a business decision for Sean Hannity. It's a business decision for Ann Coulter. It's a business decision. By the way, speaking of business decisions, how do you think, Trump announcing, well, I'm going to flip-flop on illegal immigration on the very day that Ann Coulter is beginning her book tour, the book entitled In Trump We Trust. So much for business decisions. Oh, there's just so much damage that these doggy treat salesmen have done to themselves. And I include Douglas V. Gibbs in that category as well. He's not on their level, but it was the same basic idea. He was alienating his local supporters, so he drank the Kool-Aid himself. But there was never a reason to take Donald Trump seriously. Ever. Limbaugh didn't say it, but definitely knows that Donald Trump's campaign and policy positions so far have been tailor-made for the talk radio audience. And why? Because they've been tailor-made by the doggy treat salesmen, the talk radio hosts. Sean Hannity, Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, Stephen Bannon. These are all people advising Trump, shaping him, creating him. Remember, nobody controls Trump? That's what you thought. Now, There is this theory among the talk radio conservative publishing Fox, well, formerly conservative publishing Fox opinion show set that if only a candidate would, oh, and Douglas V. Gibbs, you've been saying this for years, so you should perk your ears up as well. There is this theory among the talk radio conservative public, formerly conservative publishing Fox opinion show set, that if only a candidate would come along who dared to say what talk radio hosts say, he'd be wildly popular and win the presidency. Of course, why have none of them ever actually run for president? You ever give that any thought? They've said this many times. You know, well, this is really still a majority conservative country. It's never been a majority conservative country. Ever. Not to say it shouldn't be, but, and boy, the damage that you people have done to any possibility of that ever becoming the case at any time in the future is immeasurable. I mean, they don't quite put it, well, some of them put it that way. Others say that someone who speaks the conservative message unapologetically would win, which is not what Trump supporters are doing. In fact, it is that firm belief in conservative talk is representative of the nation, which it is not. It should be. God, I wish it was, but it's not. You can't change reality before first accepting it as it actually is. It is that firm belief in conservative talk is representative of the nation that is at the root of the immigration is all things idea, which is to say, massive demographic change would change that dynamic. So these pundits believe that if a candidate came along who took no crap and said what they say every day, that person would dominate. You know how football teams, before they go out on the field, they put their arms together and they say, 1, 2, 3, dominate! That's what Hannity and Limbaugh and Ingram and et al. are essentially did the same thing. It seems that they've tried to create that candidate in Donald Trump. It's like putting socks on a rooster. The problem, obviously, is that the talk radio ex-conservative publishing Fox opinion show model is not about conservative policy and ideas, or good governance, or increasing our liberty, or social conservative values, or even really about the Constitution, Doug. To a great extent, it is essentially about getting the audience outraged. Anger! Like anger is a principle. You've got so many Tea Partiers, now ex-Tea Partiers, current Trumplicans, got so inured to the idea, fight, 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 they forgot what it was they were supposed to be fighting for. And so we end up where we are now. Like I say, if you can't beat them, join them. That's the Trumplican motto. To a great extent, it is essentially about getting the audience outraged. Outrage clicks on links. Outrage tunes in. Outrage buys books. How do they phrase it? But political correctness is ruining America forever and will probably murder your family. Illegal aliens will definitely murder your family. And in the case of the Steinleys, it was correct. And there are others, certainly. Now, that may be how to build an audience, but it's not a blueprint for being a successful chief executive. I mean, ask yourself this question. Was Ronald Reagan ever angry? Was he angry all the time? Was that his normal mood? Was that his normal mean? Just, Now, that's not to say that Ronald Reagan didn't on occasion get a bit testy. Like Excuse me, Mr. Green, I paid for this microphone. Or like when he walked out on Mikhail Gorbachev at Reykjavik because he refused to give up the Strategic Defense Initiative. The point is, less is more. Less is more. You don't help yourself by being angry all the time. You know, it's just like Barack Obama constantly for 8 years, day after day after day, playing the race card. Eventually, it loses its impact. It loses its clout. It loses its oomph. And you got nothing left. It just becomes an empty shell. Same thing with anger. If you're angry all the time, eventually people are just going to stop listening to you. And that's the case here. You know, Ronald Reagan, when he was angry, you knew he was angry because he usually wasn't. And Reagan, of course, never forgot what he was fighting for. See, unfortunately, these pundits are so deep in their own world that they treat these daily outrages as the apotheosis, of a conservative message. Now, it's not that these issues don't matter. They do. There's plenty to be outraged about. It's not paranoia if they really are out to get you. And Democrats really are out to do a whole lot of no good. They do want to take away your private gun ownership. They will say this out loud. They do want to redistribute, steal your wealth. They do believe in socialist policy. These are real things. And political correctness, in the sense that people in schools and entire states are pressured or legally forced into absurd situations because of the fear of offending someone, is also a real thing. But that does not make it the sum total of conservative thinking or conservative policy or the key to a successful campaign or a successful presidency. And that's saying, I'm saying that even understanding that Trump supporters have abandoned conservatism wholesale to follow after a New York liberal con man who doesn't believe in any of these things. There must be depth beyond what you say to get people stuck in traffic to wait through the next commercial break. Only that depth does not exist in Trump. He doesn't have it. That's exactly why he turned his back on the Second Amendment after the Orlando massacre, and it's why he has turned his back on his own deportation rhetoric. His pundit creators gave him a script that made him popular and liked with about 10% of the population, and generally brought good media coverage during the primary because the media wanted the weakest possible opponent for Hillary Clinton, their candidate. But that free ride is over. Over. And now he's facing not only disapproval and outrage of a whole new level, but he's not winning. He's losing. And during the primary, Trump had the positive reinforcement. Underline this, underscore this, highlight this, Trumplicans. Listen up. During the primary, Trump had the positive reinforcement of dominating polls and winning votes. Everything, you couldn't go through an interview, you couldn't even go beyond one or two sentences without Trump reminding you that he was leading in the polls. Polls were all he talked about. Polls were his campaign was justified by polls, and the polls justified his campaign. I'm ahead in the polls. Oh, by the way, did you know I'm ahead in the polls? I'm ahead in the polls. Hey, you hear this? I'm ahead in the polls. This just in, I'm ahead in the polls. Now, he's losing. He's tanking, and he knows it. Or he wouldn't have pretended to issue that Trumpology last week in Charlotte, North Carolina. Or I guess that's another example of the consultants getting to him Right, Ann Coulter? So, like the slimy used car salesman he is, Trump has simply changed his opinion to suit the moment for all the wrong people. Yeah, you Trumplicans, you've been kicked to the curb. You've been tossed in the nearest garbage can. You have been discarded. You have been betrayed. He's gotten what he wants out of you, and so, whoop, there you go. Off you go. Down the memory hole. Like we always told you he was going to do. And now, facing reciprocal backlash from the flip, I haven't really seen that much evidence of it yet, but he may switch it back. And you people, you Trump supporters want to believe. It's like the poster that was in Fox Mulder's FBI basement office. You know, the one with the flying saucer and the caption below it that said, "I want to believe." Yeah, you want to believe. You want to believe it so you want to believe it. You want to believe him so blindly that you've just switched off your brains for the duration, and who knows, maybe quite a while afterwards. Is at that much. See, Donald Trump is the talk radio candidate, or the pundit candidate, if you will. With so many of them advising him, acting as his confidants, and influencing his decisions. Remember when nobody controlled Trump? Good times, good times. How can Trump be anything but a product of their influence? As Pete Kendall used to say, a former Seattle Seahawks offensive lineman from about 20 years ago, that's a fair question. But they appear now to be in a tug of war with traditional campaign advisors about who he should be in the general election. Oh, you know what the funniest part about that is? Trump is going to be Trump. Trump can only be Trump. Trump would never be anything else than Trump because Trump loves being Trump. And so you got talk radio pulling one way and traditional campaign advisors pulling the other way. They've all sold out to Trump, and yet Trump is going to be Trump. He can't change. He can't change. Do you understand that, Trump supporters? The thing that you loved about Trump, everything you loved about Trump, he takes no prisoners. Trump smash! Wow, that was appropriate. Nobody controls Trump. Trump is politically incorrect. Trump says what he says. He's straight shooter. He's fearless. Is now losing him the general election to Hillary Clinton, just like we always said would be the case. And now you go. In other words, the number of different factions that are pulling on Trump or trying to, thinking they can influence him, and which makes the fact that the doggy treat salesmen, the talk radio pundits, whatever, trying to do it, now they actually have to. Because Trump wasn't what they thought or wanted to believe or convince themselves that he was. No, my friends. Now enemies, I suppose. But that's your choice, not mine. Trump has always been Trump, and he's never been anything else. And now you Trump supporters are reaping the whirlwind for it. You reap the whirlwind by shoving him down our throats. You reap the whirlwind by facilitating his hostile takeover of the Republican Party, all because of all the things you thought he was going to do for you, and now you see he's not doing any of it. And he never was. So now, Trumplicans have to play tug of war with traditional campaign advisors, whomever else, and we in Never Trump are just sitting back here sardonically, in gallows humor terms, laughing our asses off. And the ultimate beneficiary of all your efforts, Trumplicans, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Oh my. I mean, look, should Trump pivot and tack left, or should he double down and go further right when he's never been right to begin with? In every sense of that word. That tug of war is why he has done both of those things just in the past few weeks. In other words, being honest about his opposition to the Second Amendment and being honest about his support for amnesty right before your disbelieving eyes. So who will Trump be this week? Will he be Bannon's Trump or Conway's? Will he be Ingram's product or the RNC's? If he doesn't pick your preferred flavor, don't worry, there's always next week. Just as long as you keep tuning in, and just as long as you remember, Trump can only be Trump.